Fabian, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Asaf.
It's a fun topic.
So far.
Spirituality accelerated. Fabian, you found the channel through No Limit Society, is that right?
No, I've been watching you for quite a while, actually. I think the first video was with Frank Yang. Yeah, I think
Cool.
that's how
Like back in February or so.
yeah, something like that.
Cool. Nice. And then when did you join No Limit Society?
I initially joined the meditation mastery retreat, and
Mhm.
yeah, then just rode the wave of the 3 months, and now I'm hooked.
That's so great. Nice. Cool. Initially, we were going to talk about XRP, and eventually, we probably will a little bit more on the show. Um, and today, we might actually touch on it regarding how the decentralized architectures are actually accelerating the inner journey. But let's talk about you specifically because you're 20
Yeah,
and you're already tuned into the vibe of awakening. How did that happen?
like for me, it started because of a great catalyst, I would say. Like in my youth, I was pretty anxious and just didn't feel that great, and I wasn't accepting myself. And because of that, I just searched for a way out, you could say. And initially, I got into fitness and working out and reading a ton of books and you could say building my intellect to be really streamlined. And then I had this intellectual identity, and that was already like a great shift of okay, now I'm great, I'm I'm worthy. And then also COVID was a huge catalyst for me. Like it just pushed me down again because all the structures I built that just destroyed like in one swipe. And I was basically like at the bottom again, you could say. And then also a big part of psychedelics in my journey. So I had a mystical experience, you could say. And then I was like, oh, I realized I'm conscious. And it was like this huge revelation because somehow I managed to overlook this my whole life.
Yep.
But then, yeah, I just, oh, wait a second, I'm conscious. And I never thought about this before. How can I have this knowledge without thinking about it prior? Then I got into philosophy and already touched a bit about spirituality. I with Sadhguru and other, you could say, more surface like teachers. And like the biggest event for me was actually this year. And I was walking outside in the middle of the night and it began snowing. And I'm living like, it's not really the city, it's more like the transition from city to village. And somehow there appeared messages written in the snow on like the roof of cars. And it were my thoughts and in different languages. And it was just not explainable to me. So like my worldview, it was such a huge permission slip for me to shift my worldview from like, oh, I'm an atheist or I don't know to, oh, okay, no, there's something bigger, like there's something going on with Bentinho and like guys like you. It's just has been going up very fast.
Nice. So there's in your specific case, there's a lot of catalysts that then created the seeking spark and drive. So it's probably not going to be guaranteed that everybody young will be sparked, even though they'll have access to spiritual truth that is disseminated via video content at their fingertips anytime they want. The thing is that will they be able to parse through all the noise and find that signal? That's probably one of the big questions. So
No.
so as much as because with what you're sharing, it's clear that you had a lot of catalysts that then sparked that pursuit of truth. So young people may have, especially growing up in the times like right now, just feel like the freedom is being limited. And so they might wonder, well, how to liberate myself from the contracted feelings of what feels like the matrix control system. And so then that might be one of the most common catalysts for young people is I will pursue spirituality, consciousness, non-duality as fast as possible because I don't believe in any of the matrix control structures. I'll pursue decentralization, I'll pursue abundance, I'll live and imagine and breathe that. That's really exciting.
Yeah. And you can also see like COVID as a huge collective catalyst, because a lot of people I know have been going through like down phases, because it doesn't really matter like where you're at. If you're locked down in your like house for a few months and can't do the stuff you used to do, and it will create catalysts. And maybe they don't see it that consciously yet, but people will get into like trauma work and improving themselves and creating abundance for themselves, and like not following the matrix structures of, oh, you need to do this, you need to study, you need to get a job, you need to earn money, you need to build a house. Like this stuff it's going down faster and faster. It seems true to be that's just a projection from like the past generation, and actually it doesn't feel right for me to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because it perpetuates the old patterns and the old infrastructures. And young people especially know that they don't want to that they don't want to fall into what keeps self-knowledge inhibited or restricted. Yeah. So that's the priority is self-knowledge. Capital S, self-knowledge above everything else. And how much joy and peace that brings.
Yeah, as you said, like happiness is the number one priority. For whatever you think you want, like being happy, being peaceful, being joyful is always the underlying principle. And currently there's a lot of projection. Oh, like this is going to give me happiness because I have been told so. And currently I don't have access to, let's say, like, I don't know, a huge mansion or a lot of money because I'm young. But even if you don't get it, or even if you get it, like there will be the realization, no, actually, it doesn't fulfill me. Like there is still something missing. And I don't know how to get it. What is it? What is the missing piece? What am I missing? Like the mainstream is not communicating this. It's not told. It's not taught at schools. But there has to be something to this existence. It can't be that simple that like nobody knows. That's also what occurred to me. Like everyone is going through this world like as they knew. But if you really look at it, nobody has a clue. Nobody has a clue.
So you would say that the internet is one of the biggest catalysts for young people to be able to find truth. And what would you suggest for them? How to find signal?
Just go with what resonates. And be like the biggest factor for me was open-mindedness. Like really check out every angle. If you resonate with psychedelics, do your research. Take psychedelics, they are super powerful. If you resonate with a spiritual teacher, like really get to know them, be open-minded for what you have to say. Like maybe there's some truth in it. How can you say you would know for sure if you don't even check it out? Really try every angle, try every teacher, see what resonates and also what works for you. what really helps you to be more happy, to be more peaceful, and you will know. It will be obvious for you. Like if I was in this state 1 year ago, I would have been surprised. Like, how is this possible? How can I be this open? How can I speak this freely? How can I got this podcast? I'm super excited to be here. And it's all possible. Like, there are no limitations. If you believe it, if you follow your resonance, if you do it, then sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so following what resonates and pursuit of truth, whatever it is, mm-hmm, through whatever means it is. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How about the people around you and your friends? How has it been for them? Because if you're 20 and you're already pursuing this, you probably also have some other young friends that are also seeking. And so, how is it working out for them?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't have really close contact to the people I used to be in school with. And I moved 2 months ago, so I'm like in a new environment and I'm just seeing how it all unfolds. But yeah, I see a lot of suffering in them. And maybe they don't know it yet, how how it's like how they can change their life. And also in my past I have been not that grounded, you could say, and not that streamlined of okay, how can I communicate this? And also coming a lot from okay, I need validation for like my metaphysical truth. So I don't
Mhm.
know how they perceive it, but I see a lot of suffering. I see a lot of potential. I also see a lot of open-mindedness and interest in topics that are not that well accepted. So it's a exciting time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how you talked about open mindedness being a huge key. Mm-hmm. I like how you talked about seeing through the need to be seen. It's very important. Liberating oneself of that trap of wanting to be seen. Hmm. Nice. Hmm.
Also, what's coming up, like being an example, or even talking to guys like you who have been on this journey, and like it's like a download. If I talk to someone one on one, and it's like he's deconstructing my mind. Especially in No Limit Society, I have had this a lot of times when I was talking like in one on one calls, like the acceleration is huge because they have been on the journey as well for sometimes even centuries. And even the talking to them is like straight knowledge in my brain. Like it's 1 hour full of content, like and learning from 10 years. It's just amazing. And there are so many possibilities to do this. For example, NLS. If you join NLS and you're serious about this, there are a lot of people who are willing to help you. There's a session with Continue every week. You can ask questions. So that's also a big one that's coming in the next month.
Nice. So you feel like you found a pretty strong spiritual community with No Limit Society.
Yeah. From my humble opinion, it's probably the most like holistic and all-encompassing community currently available on Earth, at least with the information I have gathered. So yeah.
Nice. Hmm. Yeah, like really covering all of the bases really well. Actually doing the work of purification.
I can give a few examples on how it was especially powerful for me.
Yeah.
So like the big like the big thing that really is accelerating are the ketters and having contact to people who are really evolved and really purified and also really, you could say, enlightened. So it has been only 2 months, and the biggest things for me were like Anurag's cleaning your stuff up, like the 5 different points of health and fitness, your physical space, your state of being, your relationships, and your administration of life. And an example for me has been like that's how I found the leg belief. Who I am is not okay. And that was also like the one why I was coming from, okay, you need to validate me for what I'm saying, or I need to be like I received in a certain way when talking to certain people. It means something about me if they react in a certain way, which is just not true. And I found the root of like my school time when I was a little bit like where I didn't like my body and I just didn't allow myself to express authentically because I thought, okay, no, my true self, like they don't like who I would be, which is so arrogant if you look at it. Because if you are created like by this one God or source or however you want to call it, then every particle is like this handcrafted thing by this one infinite intelligence. And it's arrogant to say, no, this one is not okay. Like it's so stupid. Mm.
Nice.
And yeah, it gave me the motivation to call old people I haven't talked to in a while and really come from this place of self worth and confidence. And that was also like a huge insight because in my mind I was still relating on the level of who I was before then when I talked to like a year ago to someone. And through the conversation and through the embodiment of the new state, there was like a dropping away of so much lack belief and so much contraction. So this has been like a huge liberation and it was so freeing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So good. Yeah. Oh, I love hearing that. Yeah, especially how doing the cleanup sort of gives a yeah, especially how doing the cleanup gives a lot of insight into where we're contracted or where we're conditioned or where we still aren't free. And when we actually do the work, we do things like find out this core lack belief that it comes up, and then that's great. So, and I love how your core lack belief, and as well as many people with the I'm not worthiness. It's funny because it's like you described that everything is this existence consciousness bliss except you. Yeah, it's so funny. Everything everything is, yeah, yeah, infinity, endlessly actualizing potential, but you're not
It,
worthy. Yeah.
it's such a funny one, especially like in the spiritual community, because there also is often lacking like the self-empowering part. And even if you had like this mystical experiences and you see this, there's still like this place of unworthiness in oneself. And it's so deep rooted, I think, in a lot of spiritual communities. And it's so funny.
Yeah, and another way to say it is that the sense of self, or the lowercase s, the sense of identity, um, has been assumed to be a person in the body. And so then, if you know yourself as infinity, you know yourself as always ultimately worthy. Um, but if you have a contracted sense of self in the body, you will think of yourself as potentially unworthy, or as separate from other people, as separate from yourself as God or source. And so that seems to be, again, at the very top of as Buddha said in Dependent Origination, that this very first link, either you know impermanence and no self and suffering, or you don't. And if you don't, then you're gonna make a sense of self, and you're gonna be ignorant, and then all of your action is gonna come from that ignorant place. So it really all starts from that. Like, for example, you growing up, the only reason you even had to pursue spirituality was because you gained a bunch of onion layers of conditioning and separation, just like me and so many others. So you can see the most accelerating spiritual path is actually where you don't build up any of the conditions or separations.
Yeah, it's like this one is because if you don't build any layers, you also don't have really catalyst, and you don't have that much lessons to learn. Like, for example, if you take the last one and fourth density, where like an average incarnation is like, I think, 90,000 years, and there is not that much learning in that lifespan. And for example, my journey has been consciously for like 10 months, and the growth and the knowledge that has been gained in this short amount of time is just mind-blowing. So it's also an important part to build up this layer, to gain catalyst, and to have the chance to grow, spiritually speaking.
Yeah, it's an important point that all of the layers of conditions and separation actually are generative of catalysts that then are our school. And so without the buildup of conditions, then there are less spiritual catalysts, but there still are, at least in the sense of the actualization of the potential, not necessarily the dissolving or deconstructing of identity. So there's a different style of expression of the one. So it's like the empowerment expression of the one, let's say. So the enlightenment expression only has to happen if the onion layers are even built up, then they have to be deconstructed. But the empowerment, the fireworking, the creativity, there's still going to be catalysts there. You'll still have all different types of situations that along that the actualization of a unique gift that you're blueprinted for, that will come up. Like, even though you might know yourself as infinity, when you have to do taxes, you might get a little upset, and that'll be a great catalyst. Is yeah, your level of frustration with your taxes. So, mhm.
Yeah, it's really interesting to talk about this kind of evolution, because I think taxes are just here in third density, and like in fourth density, I can't imagine that you have to do taxes or something like that, and it's just relevant because we built up this egoic layers of the onion, and because we haven't been actualizing our full potential as a collective. If we would have been like fully actualized, there would be abundance all over the earth, and nobody would have a problem of this kind.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So probably a good time to talk about how internal and exterior just mirror each other and how they feed back into each other. So all of the past couple centuries on the centralization of the money supply, energy, have created more of a separation. But now we're going through a decentralization of all of that. So as we wake up and deconstruct ourselves, that's mirrored in what we build, because we're not building from a place of separation but from a place of wholeness. Also, as we experience more decentralized architectures, that also feeds back into our consciousness waking up. Hmm. So talk about that, and then talk about how things like Ripple or XRP, how they play into um, Shambhala, into the enlightened civilization on this planet.
Yeah, nice. So I like to imagine it's like the interior and the internal and the external like influence each other. It's like a loop, because you're referencing the external and the external is referencing the internal, and so it goes like a circle. And if there are more opportunities, for example, in the external world, like NLS or spiritual communities, then you will have greater access to this, and you will be able to like evolve more accelerated. And if you evolve more accelerated, you are able to create from that accelerated place, and you will create external structures, and more people can have access to this external structures, and they will gain momentum in the internal process. And yeah, so it's an exponential growth, and it's going to be interesting in the next months and years. And for example, the financial system, like money has been pretty much controlled, you could say, by big institutions, and the normal human had to work for it, and there was like this, oh, there's not enough for everyone, and you have to achieve this, you have to do this to have enough, which is absurd. And for example, Ripple, they are really into decentralized finances, and they have a coin called XRP, and it's designed to be a bridge currency, because in my opinion, everything is getting more and more digital. And if, for example, central banks switch to CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies,
Yeah.
like a digital euro or something like that, that you just have to, you don't have to print money anymore. It's just all online. And I see that coming. Also with COVID, like everything is getting more contactless, like you pay with your credit card. So that's something I see coming. And there are a few points where this also will immensely accelerate like the human potential. For example, there are around, I think, 1.7 billion unbanked people on this planet right now. And with Ripple, everyone who has a mobile phone, if this gets integrated, has access to the financial system. So there's a huge financial inclusion for everyone to participate, and for everyone to have like opportunities. And with the opportunities, you also can ask for a signal and search for truth and gain like internal momentum, and then the external reflects that again. Also, like there are a lot of fees when you send money for poor people, over fees. Like you have to pay, let's say, $10 as a fee. And if there's a transaction with XRP, it's very, very cheap, and you won't lose that much money. And like $10 for a poor human could be really life-changing for them to, okay, I don't have to worry right now. Like this $10 more a month or a week, they will be immensely helpful. And now I can concentrate on the important stuff. Like I can pass the signals. I can try to be happy. Like I have enough now. There's enough abundance to survive from. And survival is still like the most important thing for human beings. if survival is like granted, then the acceleration, then the activation of potential can start.
Yeah, it's exciting thinking about the 1.8 or whatnot billion people that are unbanked leapfrogging over the centralized banking infrastructure and going straight into the crypto wallet space. But why wouldn't they go to Bitcoin and Ethereum? Why do you think XRP is the key?
Because I think the structures, like the current structures, like the banking system and the government, they won't break down that fast. I think there's going to be a process and there's going to be an internal change for this system. And Ripple is working with these banks and they are integrating it. As I said, like if there is a CBDC for, let's say, Brazil creates CBDC, then XRP is like the background of moving value. Like you can send your euro, your digital euro, and XRP is like the moving of value to a digital dollar. And that's why I see it to be such important, because they work with the banks, they work with the government, they are involved, they are highly connected. Also, it is very fast. It is really cheap. And it's also transparent. And it's not that energy, like Bitcoin, for example, uses a lot of energy. It's not like no one pays with Bitcoin. It's slow, it's expensive. And if someone has seen like the pictures of the mining, there's still a lot of energy going into this. And it's basically wasted energy. Why would you waste this energy? Because I think climate change and things like that will be more and more important for the mass, like for the collective. That's why I think XRP is a great representation of the new system and the way things are going to be.
So XRP is actually a bridge between the centralized banking and the decentralized future.
Yeah.
So XRP is working with the centralized banks on the CBDCs, the centralized bank digital currencies. Is that right? They're providing the underlying technology.
Yeah, that's the plan, at least. Like it's still, you can't really say if that's happening. There are indicators of it because they have a lot of partnerships with banks, and you see how connected like the CEOs are with a lot of financial leaders. It's still speculative, you could say, but if you go into this deeper, let's say if the genie is down for a podcast, and then it will make more and more sense, because there are a lot of points and a lot of connectedness also to the spiritual community. So yeah.
So the idea is that the CD or the CBDC, centralized bank digital currency, that having an underlying technology of ripples will then make it easier as people switch to the digital US dollar or the digital euro, etc. It will make it easier for the integration to happen where people begin using like crypto wallets. It'll make it easier for people to make the transition to other, even non-centralized digital currencies.
Yeah, also XRP is not really centralized because there's not like a power structure that has control over it. It's not that Ripple has like, I think 5% of the control, and there are also other companies and other people who have the power. Like they can't decide to make something. They are like dependent on other parties. And it's like, yeah, it's the underlying structure of central bank digital currencies. And I don't know how the switch will going to happen, but let's say if it's seen that digital money is more efficient, it's faster, it's cheaper, it's better for the climate, and there's a decision from a government, okay, we will switch like printed money to digital money, then yes, this could be the underlying structure.
I see. So as printed money switches to digital money, the use of XRP for the CBDCs will transition people more and more towards using cryptocurrencies that are also not made by centralized banks. So this is almost like a middle step. Like I
Mm.
can like I can set myself up right now with CBDCs, like having digital US dollars, or which I already do in my ledger, in my bank account. It's just a bunch of digits. And so then what would it look like for those digits, let's say 1,000 US dollars or 1,000 euro, to get incorporated with XRP and CBDC? What does that look like?
Let's see.
Is this a harder technical question?
I don't have that much a clue about that, I have to say. Like, I would imagine that there wouldn't be that much difference because it's like running the background system. We have no clue how we two are connected right now. We have no clue about the technicality that is like that is needed for us to have this conversation, for our phones to work. Like, we just see the surface level of it. And I think from the technical view, from a like the science view, there wouldn't be much of a change. I don't know how the exchange of like, because as you said, your number on your bank account is already, you could say, digital. So there wouldn't be that much of a change. It just would be only digital payment. Like, there just wouldn't be printed money anymore. And the underlying infrastructure of how the system works would be changed. So there wouldn't be that much of a noticeable change for like a normal human being.
Mm-hmm. I envision that the transition will look like frictionless P2P exchange. um, Frictionless person to person exchange of value, with no intermediaries. So if I want to send you money, I just send you money frictionlessly without any middleman, through either unique keys, or and then from there I can access any of the different coins with my wallet, where certain coins will be used for specific things and other coins will be more general use. So Bitcoin seems to be a most general coin for use. And then something a little bit more specialized that is used specifically for like art NFTs or something will be a different style of coin. So I'll be able to frictionlessly see my wallet that would have my the total amounts of those different coins, and also to be able to send back and forth to different people, and to be able to list my NFT assets or whatever else that I own at the same time, and to have everything be without middleman. So everything is just P2P. Do you see it like that too?
Yeah, sounds like sounds good. I have to say.
Sounds so good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It sounds so much better. Like to nobody wants to like nobody wants to feel like they're getting fucked, you know? Like, just most simply put, nobody wants to feel like they're getting fucked. Um Everyone wants their basic needs met. Um Everyone wants freedom. Everyone wants peace. Everyone wants happiness. That's without a doubt. And so we have all these trillions of dollars that are currently locked in high net worth families and in the 2,200 billionaires on the planet. There's literally trillions of dollars locked up and they don't know where to put their money. Well, to find the best places, to provide the best places, and to put it in those places for maximizing planetary basic needs, to build out the planet's next Shambhalas, to increase freedom, joy, peace, actualization of artistic potential, awakening. This is the only way forward. So to wake up every single day envisioning that we already are at this enlightened civilization where everything is, all the basic needs are met, all of the whole collective is awake and enlightened, and bringing forth art and bringing forth prosperity has been such a big key. um, and it's the only way forward. The only way forward is to envision that it's already done, and then to just trust that the collective's intention, especially with programs like NLS, that as 300, 500, 1,000, 10,000 people are all holding a collective intention of Shambhala is already done, that number increases to 100,000 and a million, and more people move into this paradigm of fourth density, love, light, consciousness. Um, mhm. It's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I also see like the abundance is already there. Like the distribution is just stuck. Because also a lot of
Mhm.
the powerful people, I don't know the percentage of which are like service to self oriented and really wanted to be this way. And like what percentage is just confused and think that that will give them happiness. And in reality they would love to see like the whole planet prospering. And yeah, let's see how this unfolds. And I'm also certain the more and more people hold this vision, and the more like the suffering gets, because their old structures are coming down, and they are coming down faster and faster and faster. And the conscious will be more and more noticeable. And if we hold this space, and if we hold like this reality, then more and more people will be like, okay, why wouldn't I be part of this reality? It's epic, it's amazing, it's possible. So why am I holding myself back? Why am I choosing my suffering? Because it's all self-created.
Mm-hmm. So this reminds me of how from the top down, in terms of like the planet's most wealthy, you bring up a good point, which is polarization towards service to self. So it might be true that there's going to be a good amount of those 2,200 billionaires that just that don't really care about anyone but themselves, besides their contracted sense of self. And then from the bottom up, you're going to have more and more grassroots awakening happening. So from the top down, you'll have STS and STO polarized wealth trying to make moves in the planet, both waking up and falling asleep. And then from the bottom up, we'll have both people that are waking up and staying asleep. And so it's up to us to awaken the lion inside, awaken the lion inside of all of our other selves. So if we get that this is self, capital S, talking to itself, God talking to God, source talking to source, consciousness talking to consciousness. And if we can just relax into that, We can tune into the no separation. We can tune into the no lack. We can tune into the perfection. And this is exactly what this collective seeks: the obliteration of all separation conditioning, all basic needs being met. So it's going to come from two places. It's going to come from, think, content like this, where the grassroots is going to be able to be like, oh yeah, consciousness talking to itself, God talking to itself. Cool. I can see that way more often. I can make my identity that more. And then bang, 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 bang. But it'll also come from top down. It'll also come from top down, where you have things like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So more of the planet's consciousness is at least oriented towards, oh, there's still almost a billion people without access to clean water, so we'll still be galvanizing our resources toward that. And then also, if you just look at what we have to do nowadays to travel, that's the service to self polarized top down force. So if you have to take vaccines and booster shots very deep nasal swabs, being documented everywhere you go, being manipulated by media propaganda 24/7. There's no lack of polarized news being promulgated on the internet across a myriad of different television stations and websites. If the countries still think that they're separate from each other, which is the dumbest thing ever, it's so stupid, um, then that's going to increase geopolitical conflict. So countries both being able to recognize and like chill in their like independent traditions and their and like the culture, and be like, yay, it's beautiful, like we love the celebration of your traditions, but you're just not separate from the rest of Earth. Everything on Earth is one. So it's all layered like that. So you'll have these seeming individuals, but they're all capital S self. They're all God. Just like you'll have these seemingly independent countries, but they're all Gaia. They're all the planet's energy. Waking up to this is it. It's so simple. So let's play in the future, like 5, 10 years from now. Fabian, let's say that we have other young people waking up. They're like 10 years old right now. What are they using to wake up? How are they finding truth?
In 10 years from now or now?
Let's say that the 10-year-olds, 10 years from now, the 10-year-olds both now beginning to find truth, as well as in 5 years and 10 years when they are finding truth and getting aligned to spiritual communities. What do you feel like they're using as their tools? Are they still using TikTok? Are they using Oculus? Are they using virtual reality? How are they deconstructing their identity? How are they deconditioning themselves? How are they finding the spiritual communities?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to forecast like 5, 10 years because, in my opinion, the change will be radical and drastic and not recognizable. So 10 years from now, it's really like, ooh, I don't know, but I think the internet will be still a huge component, like to be connected and to have the possibility to talk to everyone around the globe. And if the internet structure gets like more developed, there will be even more possibilities and more like people like us making content and offering like one-on-one sessions and even talking to your peers if they are interested and being more reflective of one another, like really being mirror-like. I see this in younger people especially, like to be able to say honestly, like, okay, I perceived you that way and you could like change that and not take that personally. So there are a lot of factors playing into this. Also the educational system. So yeah, it's so multidimensional and there are so many facets to this. I just see the acceleration and the growth and the perfection in all of it. That's the place I'm coming from. Also, another point that came up before, like how the acceleration can be really rapid. For example, like an individual that has a company and that has more influences. And if someone like this awakens, then like the spreading of truth and the spreading of the information will also really accelerate. And there's an example of like a German CEO with a huge fitness company, and he took psychedelics a few times, and he had this realizations of, oh, everything is one. And he just changed his complete company with that. He turned it to vegan, for example. And his company is going conscious. And I see this more and more. And this will have so huge impact. Like
Cool.
even if they like other CEOs see, okay, he is more happy now. His company is also running better because it will be more and more requested. Like conscious companies will be more and more requested. So this is all like influencing each other, and I just see so much potential.
I love that example of even just a simple awakening experience through entheogens or whatever it might be, triggering a huge difference in the way that one shows up in the world, where you're not coming from a place of separation anymore, but you're coming from a place of wholeness. And that way, your whole business, all of your employees, everything are then vibrating more and more at the wholeness. They're vibrating more and more at unity. Um, yeah, that feels so good. Yeah, so
But
more.
I was going to ask you, what's your prediction? Like, what tools do you think we will be using in the future?
I see like the Pixar style movie for awakening, like Soul, except like next levels. I see that being big as a tool. I see I see like a VR pedagogy where you just tap in and then it basically shows you all the different layers of conditioning that have been built up and how to see through all of the what you've created as a sense of identity and self and separation, and then it shows you how to recognize very simply true capital S self realization, God realization, and how you're dancing with yourself on this collective and as the universe. Yeah, I'd say those two are probably the most prominent. And then, yeah, I would also say entheogens as well. So I think more and more people are going to start taking magic mushrooms and LSD, um, and all that those things are doing is they're just decentralizing your connectome. So like where you've had a tight neurological sense of self that's located behind the eyes, all that magic mushrooms or these different psychedelics entheogens are doing is they're just showing you that that tight sense of self is an illusion, that tight sense of self is just something that you've turned into a constructed ossified pattern over the last couple of decades of your life. And instead, all you have to do is liberate yourself from that contracted sense of identity to being the entire universe, to being God, infinity, dancing with yourself. So I also see awakened, like awakened communities and influencers. I see that being a big part of this as well. Um, so like all of the Shambhalas that we're building, like with No Limit Society, also all of the influencers that are sort of waking up and wondering like, why is none of this making me happy? And then they become um, they start making music and videos around their own awakening experiences and then sharing that with their millions of followers. So that's another exciting one. Yeah, that's what I would summarize it as.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, also psychedelics are like for me one of the biggest factors, like because they have such a huge potential, and the risk is can be really minimalized. For example, if there's a trip sitter like us who knows like what they are going through and who can just hold the space of love and acceptance and just be there present with them, and because it's self-created and they can tune into that space, then the trip will get more and more in that direction. And it's just so powerful. That's one of the things I'm really excited for. Like, I would love to explore more in this direction, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree that one of the biggest tools for the acceleration of spirituality will be entheogens. And, Fabian, this is probably a good place to also mention to you the reason why we use entheogen instead of psychedelic is psychedelic means mind manifesting, but entheogen means unleashing God or the divine within.
Like, my definition for psychedelics is revealing the soul. Like, at least that's the Greek translation that I know. So I think both are great ones.
Cool. I like that. So if definition of psychedelic is revealing the soul, then I like that too. That's good. And then I do really like still that entheogen, right?
Yeah.
The entheogen, right? Inside God generating, right? You really awaken to God within. Um, very good. Hmm. I see that being huge. Also, there's so much centralization of consciousness on in this collective. It's so cute, like with all of these contracted senses of identity, like behind the eyes, and like um, and all of the suffering that that causes because we see ourselves as separate. Um, been really fun waking up to this. Do you feel like you consistently feel self with itself, God with itself, consciousness with itself? Do you feel like you're abiding in your awakening already at age 20?
Mm, it's hard to me. Like there comes the question of what is like the definitions of self-realization, for example, because it's obvious to me that there is only oneness and that there is no separation. And when I look at this meet like it's not more me. Like there's no duality here. There's like the other two here. And me speaking, quote unquote, is exactly the same as you speaking from me, and I can tune into this realization. But
Nice.
yeah, there are definitely like little things that can put me off sometimes, but it's so obvious because when I get defensive or when I get triggered, like I notice immediately because it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell that that's the emotional guidance system bringing you back to abidance or remembrance of self. Nice, that's cool. Yeah, you even like quite eloquently speak about your realization, and which is great.
Yeah, I would love a few pointers in this direction because the trajectory, like where it is going, is really interesting for me, and I consider you to be more enlightened, you could say. So can you talk about it? Like where's the trajectory of awakening going, and when do you know that you are there, or whatever you tell me you want to use?
Well,
Can I see it? I can't read it.
I'll walk us through it. Um, so in the top left corner, you see the standard perception, which is that my sense of self is located behind my eyes, and that I have these thoughts and that I have these emotions and I have this attention that is directed outward at an objective world. So one of the first shifts in awakening is in the to the top right corner, which is to the witness, identifying as that which is aware of things. So then it's like a background. It's like you become aware of the screen. You've heard that analogy, right? The screen and the
Yeah.
modulations, or the paper and the writing on the paper, right? Stuff like that, right?
Yes. Yes.
So so some people say that this is a, like realization. I did too for a little bit until things opened up more for me. And then you shift into big mind, which is right below that. It's identifying with everything. So like your sense of self becomes more and more clearly everything. So basically the subject object duality collapses. So whereas like in the previous stage there was awareness of objects or awareness of modulations of sensation, let's say. Now there's a, well, subject object duality has just collapsed completely. And then you shift into the bottom left corner, which is more of a sense of no self, no felt sense of I in any part of experience. This is where you could say that it the sense of self, the lowercase s sense of self, has been so seen through that this is sort of the beginnings of the field recognition, like everything being energy modulating, everything being energy in flux or energy dancing, or and you being that and not being a separate sense of self or even being the capital S God self. So meaning like the third stage and the fourth stage here are very much like capital S self and no self are like two sides of the same coin. When you realize that there's no self, you realize the capital S self, but then there's a deepening of that where you begin recognizing that it's also, like this is it talking to itself, but then that becomes your like lived experience of it with itself, but without a center, like it just being energy with itself. And that's where this no self and no center attention without direction come in, because you're not directing your attention at all anymore, but it's just without direction. Like it just feels more and more like a natural state of existence without a center. Um, so this is what you could say are some of the visualizations of the breakdown of the awakening journey. Do you have any thoughts about it?
I mean, I can't see it that great. For me, it's because I'm not sure where this all is leading, and for me, it's hard to like make the switch, for example, to Bentinho's terms, like to this, because Bentinho is like, for example, making a clear distinction still for like the absolute, and like for example, don't see the absolute in this. Um, yeah, but can you bridge this like to the terms of how Bentinho describes the whole awakening process? Would that be
Mm-hmm.
possible for you?
Well, the absolute is the infinite reality prior to this universe. This universe is made of awareness, love, light, or Sat Chit Ananda. This is both the absolute talking to itself, but the absolute is also the infinite reality beyond this universe. Was that helpful?
Yeah, I get it like from Bentinho's view, but I just can't bridge like the two examples. Like for example, this is more like Frank Yang style, I would say. And
Hmm?
for me, it's hard to make the bridge between, for example, a Frank Yang and a Bentinho. That's still like a thing. I don't see that they are fully like matching. That's something that I am currently like. That's my stage, and I'm open because I don't know where it leads, and I won't like finalize myself to say, oh, that's the end or whatever. So I'm curious. Did you already have like a full pop out experience into the absolute?
Yeah, I would say grokking it. Mm-hmm. Yep. And I would also say what you say about the blend between Ben and Frank. There's a lot of similarity, but there is some difference, and then I'm doing my best to sort of synthesize those as well. So I don't really see them as that much different, and I think that that's probably been my biggest like positive trait of my expression has been the fact that I find the similarities or the synthesis between things. And um, yeah, I mean, it's only going to get more and more clean, like in terms of the synthesis of the two, and being able to like visualize it. Like this is really hard. It's like on a 2D sheet of paper. Um, and I'm talking about bringing this into virtual reality and turning it into a pedagogy, and then blending this. Andrew Hewson has also talked about like what Bentinho talks about and what several other spiritual teachers talk about as being like a triple layered, like a source style awareness. So you have the human, you have awareness, and you have source. It's like a triple layer, and you have to basically blend that with this like decentralization of consciousness. You have to blend it with self-realization. You have to blend it with no self, blend it with divine love, which is the fabric of existence. So there's like a devotional aspect to the what isness. Then there's also the blending with the cleanup work in the in purification. There's a blending of that with the imagineering, like the Walt Disney style, like symbols, archetypes, like choosing your absolute highest expression, Shambhala, whatever your main superhero character is, and feeling more and more of that every day with your vibration. So there's a blending of all of those that we'll be putting into pedagogy for sure. You see, there's a lot of components, right?
Yeah, it's so yeah.
But they're not different. They are and they're not, right? They all point to the same thing and like refining the same thing, but they are like different sides of the mountain. Did that resonate?
Yeah, it makes sense for me. Like I also see the similarities, but there's still like some. For example, Frank clearly makes like source and no source. For him, it's like really all the same. And for example, Bentinga is like, okay, awareness is the first portion of the absolute, and he is still like the absolute is more. You could say absolute. It's more permanent. It's more real. That's for example a main like distinction that I get out of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, you'll also hear Ben talk about the simultaneity of how the absolute is both beyond awareness, and the absolute is also this.
Yeah.
And that's the simultaneity, that's non duality, that's, you know, so they both do point to that, that same thing at the same time. And I think that that's a key, is to realize that this is the absolute dancing with itself, and yet also at the same time, the absolute is the infinite reality beyond even this universe. Right? It makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like the intellectual framework is totally clear to me. So, but it's still, for example, I wouldn't say that I can sense the absolute. For me, it's in my experience, it feels like there is, you could say, a void or whatever. It's like it's intuition. Like I mean, it's not behind my head because I see that's just a container. That's just an assumption. But there, it feels like avoid an infinite reality. I just can't describe it. So do you think I'm sensing the absolute?
Yeah, just keep tuning into what you're feeling. Keep going. Yeah, it's beautiful. Like that's your lifeline, to the creator. That's is your impulse for truth. So as you dive into that more and more, you'll gain more clarity about what you're realizing, about what you're experiencing, um, about how that relates to the different spiritual traditions and the different spiritual teachers that you follow, that type of thing.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the clarification. It really helps.
Nice, bro. Cool. Nice. This has been fun, Fabian.
Totally.
Thanks for coming on the show. Do you have any other thoughts that you want to close with?
It feels complete to me.
Cool. Yeah, it does feel really good. This was fun together. Maybe we'll have a chance in a couple weeks or whatnot to chat with Jeannie about XRP soon.
Let's see what unfolds.
Let's see what unfolds. Yeah, and also it was just fun getting to know you more, and feeling our vibe together was nice, and just becoming closer friends. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I love about NLS, like connecting to like-minded people, like-minded souls, and there's immediate like a connection because you can feel the transparency, you can feel the honest love, and it's great.
Yeah. We'll have the link to No Limit Society, of course, in the bio below. So definitely check that out, fam. Thanks for tuning in. We love you so much. Drop us a comment with your thoughts on the episode. Like the video, share it if you feel like there are people that it would resonate with. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. So much love. Fabian, thanks again, brother. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Sweet. I'll end the show and then you and I can stay in the studio, okay?